A PhD attracts two types of people, those who know exactly what they want to do and others who have no idea what they want to do. And those two kind of ends of the spectrum is what I've experienced during my time in academia. Now, that kind of seems like a weird mix, doesn't it? A PhD should be something where you know where you're heading, you have a plan, but unfortunately, a lot of people don't go into a PhD knowing what they want to do. I would argue that most people fall into the I don't know what I want to do section of this video, rather than the people that really know what they're gonna do, where they're heading, they've got a plan for their future. And I think it's kind of like the narrative we've been sold as we've been doing our degree. It's like the more qualified you are, the better opportunities will present themselves. But I really believe that that kind of tapers off. You know, if you get a bachelor's degree in something that needs a bachelor's degree to do that sort of job or career, then brilliant. That clearly is a step up. But with a PhD, if you don't have a plan for what you're gonna do at the end, it can be a massive waste of time. So in this video, we'll talk about the different types of people that do a PhD, and I kind of like saw aspects of each of these types in my own choices while doing a PhD. Are they familiar to you? Let me know in the comments. I think that one of the biggest types of PhD student and people that do PhDs are those seeking a better life for themselves. And I really identify with this one because I decided to do a PhD in Australia because that's where I wanted to live. That's where I wanted to end up. And I feel like my biggest decision was not necessarily what I wanted to do, but who would be the easiest supervisor to work with if I wanted to get a visa. And the good thing is that my supervisor actually sort of argued with the university to get international fee waiver and all that sort of stuff. So that was kind of my main decision, and it was a kind of easy access into the Australian community. Nearly every international student that does a PhD in a foreign country decides that, yeah, this is a country where I want to stay and live. And I think it does help that you are kind of building your life, your adult life begins around your PhD, you know, if you go straight from your undergraduate. And so it kind of makes sense that you want to kind of continue in the country that you've spent a load of time doing research. So yeah, people seeking better lives. I did my PhD because the visa option was easier. I think there are a load of people who actually do a PhD because they want to become a college professor, but they really don't understand what a college professor life looks like. I didn't know. I didn't know what a university lecture position or researcher position really kind of meant until I did my undergraduate. Probably not even then, to be honest. Actually, it was probably not until my PhD where I had interactions with professors outside of lectures where I was like, oh, they do all this other stuff as well. Like, they're not just teachers. They like lecture and do research, and they do admin stuff. And I think it wasn't until I did my first long-term research project that I really understood what a college professor life looks like when they have a balanced role, when they have teaching, when they have research, and when they had admin. But there's a lot more on top that the university throws at them. You know, now they have to do their own outreach, they have to bring in money continuously. All of that is kind of wrapped up into a college professor's life. You're kind of sold this dream that it's like this academic freedom, that you can do what you want, that you'll be exploring interesting and new things forever. And that's really not the case. And so I think a lot of people get to the end of their PhD and be like, I don't want my supervisor's job, that looks terrible. This sort of person that does a PhD, I think is like a unicorn. Someone who genuinely loves the subject and the research. Now, I've seen maybe two, probably only one person that I would look at and go, you know what? You love this. You love your research. Like, your hobby and your job have molded together and you are now sort of living the dream. And I think that would be an ideal case for a ton of people. That's what we want. But you know, a lot of us end up doing the subject of our PhD not because we necessarily love it, but because it's kind of where we've ended up and it's kind of the best option of a number of things that we could do. But I've seen one person who actually started a business based on the research he did, and he absolutely loved it. He was in the lab, on the weekends because it was his hobby. It was, I don't know how he got married and had a relationship alongside how much work he actually did. But whenever you spoke to him about his research, he absolutely sort of lit up and he was excited, and he was always sort of turned on by the idea of like discovering new things in this specific area. So yeah, there are people in there that do actually genuinely love their research, and I think it's very, very rare to find that true, passionate person. We've gone from one extreme, the unicorn, to where I think most people end up when they're doing a PhD, which is they just don't know why they're there, but they do know they don't want a job in the degree they've just got, or they don't want a job in general. And I feel like that was me. That was a little sprinkling of me. When I was sort of like first thinking about doing my PhD, I didn't want to do a job. I wanted to travel. I wanted to continue studying. The idea of sort of like, going net curtain shopping on a weekend or looking at mortgages just really bored me, even though I was at the stage where like a lot of my peer group from school and undergraduate were kind of ready to do that. And I was like, no, I'm like Peter Pan. I'm going to be young forever. Yeah, clearly that's working out really well. I think a lot of people that end up doing a PhD don't want to get a job because jobs are boring. Jobs mostly are like selling your time for money, selling your life to get financial rewards. Yes, that's the reality, but it just seems so horrible when you've spent the last few years studying something you like, that you are doing well at, and then all of a sudden you don't want to sort of like jump out into this kind of desk job doing something. So I feel like a lot of people, do a PhD because they just don't want to do a job, and that's okay, isn't it? No matter the person you were going into your PhD, there's something that nearly every PhD student learns, and that is without persistence, without a purpose, even if that purpose is just to rage finish your PhD, without having sort of like challenges that you will not finish. And so no matter what you do going into it, everyone finishes the same. And I think everyone's experience eventually kind of like comes together where you end up with a thesis that you're quite proud of. You end up with a thesis that demonstrates that you are able to really sort of push boundaries, not only in terms of the field, but you're kind of able to push boundaries within yourself to finish this somewhat complicated process of developing new, novel, interesting information and communicating that to the general field and maybe even the general public. So yes, no matter what you end up doing going into it, I think everyone at some point decides this has to finish. I'm done with this. I've got, 6 months left. I've got a year left. This is how I'm going to finish, and they get through it. So there we have it. There are the kinds of people that do a PhD. Let me know in the comments if any of that resonated with you. You may have a sprinkling of all sorts of those. I know I certainly do. Now, go check out academiainsider.com. That's my project where I've got my ebooks, the Ultimate Academic Writing Toolkit, as well as the PhD Survival Guide that are available for a bundle price at the moment. So go check that out. And I'll see you in the next video.